What you're talking about here is a major frustration of mine in listening to the call-in programs, reading the newspapers, listening to the debate about politics in Barbados. And the discussion always seems to center around the GDP and economics. And they never seem to tie in those other factors which also affect the GDP and economics, maybe not in a direct manner.
Not in a direct manner, but the role of, we talk a lot about the politics, but what about non-governmental Barbados? How much is happening there?
It bad. It's real bad. Manners is something, like, you going, like, I can speak for this morning. I actually went to a beauty supply store to pick up something. I asked the cashier, do you all have this? One of them had, you know, them big white and red mints that you got? She had one of them in her jaw. I was like, sure, use the wrong gear to ask the next gear. Okay, excuse me.
You got that impression from the mint?
The mint, the attitude in the mint. Because,
okay.
like, before she can say anything. Now, first of all, you go into a business. I didn't expect to come, excuse me, I'm here to see Mr. Ellis and the security guy. I'm like, hold on, what, you know, you all got some sort, use the face of the company, use the first boy they see. So this is the impression that they can get now of the whole store. You know, you might not see it that way, but that is what it is. So I go to the second young lady that's right behind her. Excuse me, all right? Let me see. Order. Look. Say I got one in down there. I was like, okay, y'all don't got it. All right, have a nice day, ladies, and back through the door. Now, even if they had it, I didn't want it right away because that attitude alone right there, you can't got that kind of attitude. And then again, no, you look at it, it's different because they have certain ladies that there, when you speak to them, it's okay, hold on, let me check for you, stuff like that. But these two particular ones on that day, make it, you get a whole different outlet of this store if you didn't went there before. If it was your first time going, that's not the right way to present yourself to a customer because you never know. This is my first time coming here. That's how you always get on. Now I ain't coming back in here. I don't care what you all selling. I ain't coming back in here. That's it. So you always go show, like, you always be on your best behavior. And that's how I see society going nowadays. Look at how things going, like social media, for instance. How much young people on there messing up the entire lives. I don't know. I know of people that on social media that mess up their lives on social media. And it all goes back to this one thing. I like somebody sharing and saying, yeah, you gotta see this. But shame is also bring fame too, in enough cases in Barbados as far as I notice it. And oh, by the way, you forget one part that the politicians think, the 10%. You need to get back the 10% too.
Yeah, the symbolism of that.
Yeah, that
So
part
you think
too.
the non-governmental organizations are not doing their role?
I think that there's a critical role for NGOs in Barbados, and from where I sit in the media, a critical issue is trying to understand a simple thing like different pieces of legislation. We are not doing enough to expose people to what a piece of legislation is saying and what it means before it is passed.
When you say we?
We, the media, we and the non-governmental organizations, for instance, like the Bar Association of Barbados, should be working more closely with us and things like that, so that you're not caught by surprise when vital pieces of legislation are taken to Parliament, because the political thing to do is sometimes to obscure the real impact of a change, only to discover further down the road that this is what it really means. So that's an example of how the non-governmental organization can help. The people who run organizations like the architects' body, the engineers' body, the human resources bodies, all of these organizations have a role to play in helping people to understand the implications of various things for their lives.
I can throw your reasoning back at you now, though. Because you say a politician is there to win the election and a businessman is there to make money.
Yes.
All these people you now call architects, lawyers, whoever, these are business people.
Yes.
And their major concern is making money. And you talked about how the impetus is to take advantage of people's ignorance. So given the ground that you have laid for the mindset in Barbados, what motivation would there be for an architect to educate Barbadians?
Well, another critical part of all of this is to understand
Or a lawyer?
how you can suffer from a decline of the whole. If the fabric of the society falls apart, it will be difficult for you to live in this society eventually. So we all have a vested interest in this. Whether you are a doctor, a lawyer, a carpenter. You know, we were talking not so long ago about how the society is changing and how these days people see things go wrong and turn a blind eye because they don't want to get involved. And part of what will happen is that the society can find itself sliding and sliding to the point where people are living in communities and they are afraid to come out of their houses after a certain time in the evening, even during the day, depending upon how many young men smoking a spliff and behaving badly around them, and the emergence now of so many guns within the society is a strong, intimidating force. So much so that even the supervisor that you may complain to for the young lady who was sucking that sweet in the way that she was in the store, when you go to the supervisor and you say, or the manager, and you say, boss, what's going on here? I thought, management must look after these things. That person may very well be afraid too, because he may very well be aware that she is connected. She got a boyfriend who is in the drugs trade and that sort of thing.
No, they just call him a shooter.
Right.
You understand? She might be a shooter.
Precisely.
Right. And she got a shooter, he frightened.
So it all comes back to that overall climate that you create. Now, once upon a time, we used to think that, you get a green card and you go to the States. Like, up steps Donald Trump.
Oh, God, that's a word.
I says, you know what? You have a problem, essentially the same. You have a problem, stay home and fix your problem rather than come to the United States.
Right.
Now, we say Donald Trump is a bad guy. Maybe he is. But, out of that may come some good for societies like ours, that we may stay home and try to fix our problems rather than run away from them and go to the United States and Canada.
Yeah, but then when you do that, you already overseas, and you come home to visit, you come back to the same problem. So when you on Facebook, as you say, typing it in, oh, Barbados getting real bad. But you coming home for crop over. You still coming back to the same problem that you saying was always so bad.
And you left people behind.
And you left your people behind.
But let me ask you, we talk a lot about the things that concern us and the dark side of our country. But what about the good side of our country? There's still, part of what we face is that we have to do a lot more to highlight the positives. Look, we talk about social media. I had a difference of opinion with some of my friends about what is social media, because their argument is that social media is negative. See, it's just like the use of electricity. If you can use it for good, or dynamite is a good example.
Right.
That a man called Boga Lord down in Black Rock who had a reputation for blowing up dynamite. But dynamite was also used by fellas to dig wells and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you have the story that was circulating last week with Cummings, the young man who won a Shell scholarship and has a company called Acceleron, which is dealing with lithium batteries.
Oh yeah, he was on the new. I saw the video.
Recycling batteries.
Recyclable batteries. Yeah.
That's a powerful story to emerge from Barbados.
Yeah.
Speaking with a Bajan accent, and there are other people out there. I was listening the other day to a presentation which was done by another Barbadian young man who is very gung-ho for business. You've got the situation of Bitcoin and Gabriel Abed and stuff like that. So in the area of entertainment, there are people out there who are blazing a trail. There are people who are using the technology as you all are using it now and exploring new avenues and opportunities. So it is not all bad. And we have to spend a little bit more of our time just recognizing that there is that balance. If you listen to what I talk about on Brass Stacks, you will hear that word used quite a lot. There is a need to recognize that there is good and there is bad, and that we may not be doing enough to use the good to change the bad.
Are you satisfied that from the very powerful seat that you sit in at Starcom, that your organization is doing its job?
I will never be satisfied that we are doing all that we can. There are structural weaknesses that we've had to deal with over time, and as a consequence, the industry has not been as aggressive at going out there and unearthing the experience and bringing it to people. What we've done is that we spent a lot of time using music as a medium for conveying how people are changing, and sometimes it is argued that we are helping to change the society for worse by some of the stuff that we put on the air, a lot of the dance hall and the hip hop and stuff. There are concerns about that, and we are fully aware of it. But we talk about, for instance, the call-in program. The call-in program is not the only format that can be used to highlight the good and the bad in the society. Good broadcasting and media work requires going out in the community and capturing people in their own environment and pulling things together. That is another format. So it's the interview, there's the discussion, there's the produce feature, where you can really be powerful in presenting the stories of people. Not only presenting their stories, but creating that archive of how the Barbadian society has been changing. Just the other day, a few days ago, some people sent me some photographs on the phone with the jucking board and some buses from the old buses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because somebody was there chronicling that, you know? And now we can treasure it. So that's how I believe we need to take more of the work in the media. Not, you don't have to say that you want to increase it by 100%, but we also need to work more with other people in the society. I feel very strongly that there are young people who may not necessarily want to work full-time in media, but they are into projects like the one that you're doing right here and now. And there must be room for a synergy with us. So you don't have to work full-time with us, but if you're producing content, and content is king, then there must be a way for us to have a win-win, where you get the benefit. Yes, you go online, you put your stuff up online, but there is still a need for that terrestrial support that we can give. So let's look for more opportunities like those so that we can end up showcasing a lot of what is positive within the society.
You do another program called 630.
I used to do
like
630. I couldn't do 630 within the last year or so because of the time that it takes. I mean, but 630 was born out of saying, look, I do not want to develop a program that just goes to politicians to hear what they got to say.
Because there's a lot more.
Yeah, I want to hear the story of average people. And if I address my mind to it now, I could find people out there that I could go and talk to who are doing interesting things and things that people really want to hear. And I must say that I was very proud of that piece of work. However, it is a question of time. You need to spend time capturing it. You have to spend time editing it. I've had the one that I remember most of all outside of 630 because I've done different projects over the years. There are many projects that I've done. I had one called Tonight at 8. Yes. There was one that I did which has stuck with me over the years. I was walking through High Street, and when I got to the junction with Swan Street, I saw these men, young men, preaching. And one of them was a very rugged-looking guy. And I said, who was this guy? I mean, he looked so out of character. He didn't match it, right? But he was powerful in his presentation. So when I asked about him, they said, well, he is from Power in the Blood. I knew Pastor Vibert Lowe, who later was Bishop Vibert Lowe, now deceased. And I inquired about whether who was this guy, and the other fellas who were with him, about 3 or 4 other boys, young men were with him. I was also doing a project not too long after in Eden Lodge, because there was the upsurge of shooting in Eden Lodge. And we did this town meeting where I brought all these people together, and I called it "They're Shooting in My Neighborhood." The Eden Lodge was just a stone's throw away from where I've lived for many years, so I could hear the shooting when it was taking place. At that event, I met another man, and I said, you know what? Let me bring them all together behind Power in the Blood Church one evening. So we met behind there and did this interview. They were all people who had a criminal past, who had gone to church.
That was the one single thing that joined all of them together.
Gone to church.
Yeah.
We did this piece. It was the most powerful and moving piece of work that I have ever done.
Are these things archived on the website that you can go and listen to?
I believe it's not on the website, but I know I have that program. I have others too, but that one stands out. What happened to me in that interview was that doing the interview was not the tough part. It was editing the interview. When I sat down to edit this interview, I cried about 4 times. As these men talked about the things they used to do, the harm they used to inflict, and the degree to which their lives were altered by going to church. The program was called "Can Bad Boys Really Change?" Quite frankly, the time has come for a good follow-up to what happened there. Because I believe the very tough guy that I saw at High Street, they told me he committed murder after that. That's what they told me. But others I used to see from time to time. So to me, that is the power of being out there in the community. I'm not going to get that by sitting down in the studio.
Office. That's the thing, you know. People will listen to my blogs and they will be like, you say something that you was in New York and you were saying things that sometimes I in Barbados and I didn't know. But it will call for me to call somebody down here that I trust and ask them, like, yo, you heard about so-and-so? Okay, no problem. I can check on that for you and get back to you. Because you always got some person that you trust. Because if you listen to somebody where, ever you don't sit down here and tell you somebody where our story, the interview won't be about you at all. It'll be about all these so-called stories that I had. And sometimes you will hear stories that you wonder, like, if I talk about this, I wonder if people know about this. And I'd be surprised to hear how many people don't know about it. So people always hear my side of the story. And I'd be like, yo, but thanks to this person for looking out for me, for feeding me that info about what's really going on out there in society. Because, I mean, things has happened, and only one part is make the news. Like, sometimes I would see a story in the newspaper, I would know the back end of it, but you can't see anything because it could implicate a lot more people, and then not in a bad way, but like people could actually lose their jobs towards certain things. So sometimes you gotta look at some stories and be like, "Shit, that itching me to talk about it," but if I write about it, I can't say anything. Like for instance, the incident that happened at Austin police station, I know about it. About
Which incident?
the guy that hung himself in Austin's police station recently. I can't remember his name. It was actually in Friday paper. I think I was looking at it actually today, and I was like, "Whoa! I can show you the message on my phone now." When they asked the guy, "Wait, I could post this story on the newspaper and on my Facebook for people to see." He was like, "Nah, don't post it." I even know about the incident. The other incident when something happened, and they called in the hazmat people to check this. They found a powdery substance, and they knew about it right then and there. And I was like, "Yo, I could post this," and he was like, "No, don't post it because I could lose my job." So sometimes like putting the story out there, like how you went out there, you know what I mean, you show these guys. Sometimes putting the story out there is be real tedious.
The truth of the matter is that you have to be sensitive to the circumstances.
Yeah.
And isn't everything behind the scenes that will put you or somebody else under the microscope in a negative way. The issue here is follow-up. And this is where that journalistic background becomes important so that you can discern what aspect of this I can actually zero in on. I mean, we talk at a time when we've had so many accidents in the country.
Yeah,
a lot of deaths, road deaths and stuff like that. Yeah. There's got to be an angle inside there that does not conflict with the law, but brings to the forefront the experience of people who've lost loved ones. What is it like to suddenly lose somebody like that? How does it change your life? You know? Because for all that is happening, young people and older people are driving as though there is no problem, there is no tomorrow. But if I tell you the story of a wife or a son who is having to grapple with it, then maybe you get a sense of what could happen to you.
You don't just see an accident anymore.
You know?
Yeah.
So there are angles that you can actually look for that really make a difference.
Not just taking a photo and putting it out there on social media. That, to me, like, that's something that's really irked me because you never know on the end of who gonna receive this image.
The problem here is that we have become too fixated on just carrying the news rather than getting behind the information. When I functioned more on the front line of journalism with things like press conferences and interviews, it was not, the interview ran into trouble when colleagues came looking for the next news story. Major interviews are not about news. Major interviews are about views, background, justification. Explain to me why you said this before and how it does not square with what you're saying now. You go in already informed and you say to the person, this is what you said, this is what you did. Tell us how you can reconcile or rationalize these two positions here.
That takes time and energy and work and intelligence.
Definitely.
Are the media houses willing to put in that time and energy and work? Is there a payback for it?
Well, all I can say to you is that professionally, I've done that for many years. And I think there's been a payback for me for doing it.
When you're gone?
When I'm gone, somebody else will do it. But at the same time, we have to invest more in training and exposure. All right? There's no doubt about that. But then again, you have to look at the challenge with the economics of it. Because I think many media practitioners today are doing far more than they had to do before. Sometimes, you know, you are managing, but while you are managing, you are in the engine room as well. Because resources, especially since 2007, 2008, because of the economic collapse, we've had a decline in resources. So you've been struggling to deal with that bottom line issue. And even state-owned enterprises are struggling with the bottom line. So that causes you now to have a shift in the way that you're doing things, and it exerts a lot more pressure on people. But you cannot, if you are going to have a news conference tomorrow, you shouldn't tell a reporter tomorrow morning that he's going to the news conference. The reporter should know well enough in advance that they can go and do their research and go into that news conference sounding well informed, because the public of Barbados expects better from us.